Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another exciting podcast of the Written Undead. Today we have a special 2-hour episode today. Not one, but 2 hours today. And we have a very special guest, an expert in a lot of things paranormal. We're talking about crystal skulls. We're talking about UFOs. We're talking about Tartaria, which we're going to discuss in more detail here later. Uh, a fellow author of several different books out there. Check him out. His name is Joshua Shapiro, ladies and gentlemen. He is an expert in about all things paranormal, and we've got a lot to discuss today. It's going to be a very interesting show, so please do not tune out. We've got 2 hours of
Yes.
some very interesting topics to discuss here today. So I'm very excited to have you here, Joshua, and welcome to the show. And what you got for us today?
Well, I don't know where we need to start. If maybe I should just introduce myself a little bit more
Mhm.
and talk
That would
about
be excellent, please.
the free ebooks before I forget about that. Just a couple of things before we get into our subject. So,
Okay.
eh, and thank you for giving me this chance. So, what I want to say to your listeners is, I'm just a regular person like the rest of you, but I am a typical Aries. When I become excited or interested in something, it's 100% or no percent. So, since my early 20s, I have been investigating as a seeker of truth, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
everything, all the world mysteries, crystal skulls, UFOs, paranormal, whatever. I've had experiences too. Experiences are very important because it helps you to better understand what are you studying. So,
Mhm.
like if we're talking about a crystal skull, and I'll be showing you a couple I have here, it would be nice to hold one and have one and start working with it and experience the energy. So it's this kind of thing. But the reason I'm saying this is because I I got a feeling before I came with this group because they're pretty much in alignment with the way I do the presentation, which is just share, go with the flow, see what
Mhm.
comes up. That any of the things I'm talking about, some of it, I don't know how to prove it. So, in other words, when you have a spiritual experience, how do you prove it to someone else?
Mhm.
It's just something that you know that resonates for you. So, look at what's going to be presented today by what things either get you really excited or what resonates with you or what you want to learn more about. And there might be things I talk about and you go, no, I don't know if I can buy that. And that's okay too, because in my experiences, I think I understand how Creator works. And Creator basically said, look, I created all of my children, and you have free will, and you're not going to agree 100% on everything. And He doesn't want us, or I should say, excuse me, she does not want us to agree on everything. He wants us to have differences, He wants us to have challenges, because the key is that let's say there's something you don't believe in, like flat earth, and you go, those people believe in that, they're insane and they're crazy and there's nothing to it whatsoever. But then all of a sudden one day you start getting the bug, like I did last year, and then you feel like you got to research it and find out why are all those people think about it, and then all of a sudden you change. So the bottom line is that we live in an amazing world. We have many opportunities to learn things. I believe, and I'm going out on a limb on this, but I believe this strongly, that we have a lot of invisible family. I call them family, okay, spiritual family, but we can't see them or perceive them. But they
Right.
love watching. They love watching what happens on the earth because we're a unique place. Okay, I can't say we're a planet, we're a
Mhm.
world. We're a unique world where we have so much variety here, and it's amazing. And so because we have all this variety, we each have the opportunity to learn a lot. So that's what I want to say. So just see if some of what I share makes sense, and some of it doesn't, and it's okay. But we're just going. Oh yeah, right. See, I hear messages too. So one of my guides just said everything's in divine perfection. So the way that this presentation is going to go, it's going to be perfect. Okay, there are going to be some people who are going to love it, some people who won't be happy with it, and some people will go, I don't know, I got to research it. Now, before I forget, because they gave me the freedom to talk, and I can talk a lot when I'm on the spotlight. I have Leo in midheaven, by the way. I have 6 free ebooks while I was sitting around doing nothing while we had, these crazy things. Am I allowed to openly share about all the stuff that's going on now? This won't get canceled or anything? or I have to
Yes.
watch what I say? No?
No, no,
Okay,
No,
you're
so the
fine.
no.
pandemic, the vaccine, all this crazy stuff, which is false stuff, probably most of you already know that. Um, while I was sitting around, not able to come out and do, the live presentations, which I like, I did get to do quite a few of presentations like this. I'm sitting around doing nothing, and Aries can't do that. So I had to create free ebooks. So I have 6 free ebooks, which are available to all of you. And I'll tell you how you get it after I explain it, and then we'll come back to it before we end. So again, it's through email because the links are too difficult to give out. So my email address is crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com. So if you just write to me, if any of these free ebooks interest you, or you can get them all, I don't care. I'll give you everything. These are the subject matters they cover, and I'll probably be talking about these subject matters before we finish up. Crystal skulls. There are 2 personal experiences that I've had that show me that by 2037 to 2040, we will have a total peaceful, unbelievable world that we live in. So there's a book called Messages from Argus. One has to do with that's my name when I go into the future. I'll be called Argus, and Argus is my guide. So it explains how can some aspect of yourself from the future be communicating to his past self. So it explains that. So Messages from Argus is another book that talks about 2 experiences I have that show me we're going to a positive future. I think there one of those I'll be talking about. At least when I was rehearsing, that one came up before I did this. And then I have Are We in a Computer Simulation is another free ebook. Tartaria, which is an advanced civilization, which we'll have to explain more, which hopefully one of you will ask me about. An advanced civilization that existed on our world only like 200 some years ago. Most of you will say, no, it's not possible. But we'll talk about that and explain that. Flat Earth, I already did under my breath, is another free ebook. Only 500 pages, and that's only part one. That's how much information I found when I was doing my own personal research. And the other one is from May of 2021. What is going on behind the scenes? And a lot of that is still happening now. So it may still be a good book. So all 6 of those are PDF format. You can get them. Okay. So first thing before you ask me any question. Okay. See, they're letting, this is not a good thing to let an Aries lead this.
All
Okay.
right.
So
All right.
if you're going to ask me about crystal skulls, your viewers, I'm trying to see I can do this, kind of show
Oh,
you
I
what
see it. I can
okay,
see it.
this is a 10-pound light smoky quartz skull. His name is Portal de Luz, Portal of Light. This is my main guy. Okay, he calls me
Hmm.
Dan. So this is just what they look like. And also, by the way, we help people get them. I may have a major announcement coming out pretty soon of a special agreement. I can't hold him too long. I'm 67 and he's 10 pounds. So in the Indiana Jones film, where they had the skull and they're throwing him,
Yeah, yeah.
not possible. Not possible if that was Crystal Skull. Because this guy, uh, like when I do my God, I'm going so fast here. When I do my talks, okay, we dance together. Portal de Luz and we dance together. And the way I dance with him is I throw him in the air, but I can't throw him very far. It's like, maybe 4 or 5 inches. Okay, never dropped him, but that's how we dance. Dance in the museum. Everybody, what is Joshua doing? He's throwing his skull in the air. He's going to break it, and it will shatter, if it's at a certain height. So anyway, Indiana Jones, they couldn't have done that. Okay, so I'm turning it over to you guys. So you heard what's in the free ebooks. So what is the question that you're dying to know something about? Who's
Well,
first?
one of my questions was, how close is the movie The Crystal Skulls? Are they related to, was the movie anywhere near correct? What were Are they related to former UFOs and former civility that used to be on the planet and then up and left? Did they leave them behind as kind of like a reminder? I guess that would be my first question.
Okay, so you're asking about the Indiana Jones film, is what
The
I.
Indiana Jones film, how closely related is it to real life, if at all? Or is that, I mean, like most movies, just absolute Hollywood BS?
Well, it was Hollywood with some BS, of course, but obviously they were influenced by the truth of what the crystal skulls are about.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, they did say some things about some of the current crystal skulls that exist. I think they talked about Mitchell Hedges at some point. Now, related to Peru, where the skull comes from that they found,
Mm-hmm.
I have gone to Peru looking for a crystal skull.
Mm-hmm.
And now I didn't find it because I don't think that the one I'm looking for is in our physical reality right now. It's in a different dimension. Okay.
Hmm.
Which, if we go that route, that takes me into the book I wrote, which is called Search for the Blue Skull in Peru, which is, another 400 or 500 page book giving about my experiences and things related to Peru.
Mm-hmm.
But there are skulls that have come out of Peru, and but not so many that are quartz crystal. Most people think when they think about a crystal skull, it's made from quartz crystal. But today, the modern carvers who are making skulls are making them out of every kind of gemstone that you can
Mm-hmm.
imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a good thing because each of us have certain gemstones that energetically we might connect with. Like not everybody might like quartz, some people might like some other type of gemstone. So getting back to your question, Jen, and you said I could call you Jen, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure I call everybody by the right name if I remember the name.
Just
So
don't call
it's
me late for dinner. I don't care.
right. No, we definitely won't do that. Because I know if I do that with my wife Katrina, I get in big trouble. So we can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So related to, is there a connection with UFOs? Most definitely. Now, why do we say that? Well, one of the phenomena that happens with the crystal skull, it doesn't happen with Portal de Luz, but there are other skulls that people have taken pictures of, is they have holographic images that appear inside of the skull. It's like the crystal is able to somehow get activated by electromagnetic energy or higher vibrations, and then it starts showing up images. So there have been images that have appeared to people, holographic images, when they do that, of UFOs or ETs. But
Right.
also too, another thing that happens with people is, from a spiritual perspective, is they're working with the energy of the skull and they start to have a vision, and they start seeing a vision of a UFO or extraterrestrials. So
Mm-hmm.
because some of the crystal skulls are so sophisticatedly done, like when we first talked about crystal skulls publicly, we were saying we're finding these skulls in these ancient ruins, the Mayans, the Aztec, the Toltec, but these are, compared to us, they're not very technological civilizations. So how were they able to create crystal skulls that have no carver's tool marks? Like if a modern carver is making a skull, and even if they're working with diamond tip tools, which they need because like quartz crystal is a very hard substance, it could leave marks. Like if you had a high powered microscope,
Right.
you could see those marks. But yet these very advanced skulls that are coming out of these ancient civilizations, they don't see these marks. Okay, they're
Mm.
very sophisticatedly done.
Wow.
So
That's
so
what
it,
blows my mind about them. That's a question I was going to ask you is like, who made them then?
right. So one of the um, theories, or coming through spiritual mediums who work with these older skulls, can pick up their history and their energy and so on. They were gifts from the gods. Okay. Like the Mayans talk about, they have a connection to the Pleiades. And I think, I'm not sure because I don't have access to a mine, but I think I've heard them say the Pleiadians brought these crystal skulls down for us as gifts, as to use in their sacred ceremony, to do healing work. Another thing some of us think, and I think this, because I was educated as a computer scientist, is that they may be the ancient computers, that they have all kinds of information and knowledge stored inside of them in like a vibrational frequency, which may be like, a lot of people think the Atlanteans also made skulls. If you believe in Atlantis, that maybe
Mm-hmm.
they had a device, an advanced device, which maybe we have too, but they haven't told us. There's a lot of advanced technologies that are being hid from us. And this is what a lot of the whistleblowers are talking about. So maybe the Atlanteans had a ability or a device where, they could literally like, we take a USB stick and we put it into a computer, and then all the information on there goes into the computer. They had a machine that could put into the crystal skulls or take out from the crystal skulls all this kind of great information or knowledge that they had. So, so related to the UFOs shown in the Indiana Jones film, I think that we have to look at that as a possibility that maybe some of the very advanced skulls were gifts from the gods, were gifts from our galactic brothers and sisters, as a
Mhm.
tool to help us in our spiritual evolution. So yes, I agree with that. So I hopefully I answered all your questions.
I love it. I love it. I'm
Okay, so
very excited to hear more about this. Richard, does your wife have any questions?
Yeah, just before we get into that, hopefully, I got Landa Saldana. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's giving you a wave. And another one, just be advised, you're probably just showing up here as Facebook user. There's a way to go in the settings to tell us who you are, where it'll show you your name. But
This is Mark Eddy.
oh,
okay.
Mark Eddy,
Yeah.
that's why he said could easily make it a 3-hour show. He knows.
Yes, he knows you
He's the one
very
that
well.
connected me with you guys.
Yes,
Hello,
he
Mark.
did.
Thank you. I'm doing a commercial for you. You are the greatest promoter and helper of getting people out there.
Oh, he really
So
is. He
Yep.
it's
really is. He
amazing.
sent me a ton of people, and Mark's just been absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Hey, okay, so my lovely wife here, Pat. You
Hi,
have any?
lovely wife, Pat.
Hi.
We can barely see you, Pat. You might have to go up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm on
Yeah,
a
there we go.
here.
We're a little short on furniture. We're in the middle of the move, hopefully, but yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Um,
So,
I had heard, and just in some of my reading and stuff, and I had read where the crystal skulls, the ones that have been found, do vibrate and do have healing properties and store a lot of information. Um, have you seen one of the actual found crystal skulls, and have you experienced that?
so are you giving me permission to tell one of my stories?
Absolutely, please
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
Because I mean, I even though for everyone, first of all, Bailey Higgins, thank you. This is an absolutely excellent podcast. And then Mark Eddy, thanks and you're welcome. But this is not his only time. He's on again in 2 weeks. So we have him for a total of 4 hours this month. So don't think if you have forgotten something, a question that you wanted, please do. We will be able to get to everything. Well, probably not everything, but we'll be able to have you on again in 2 weeks. So I'm
Mhm.
excited for this. So please, yes, you have free reign. Please go ahead and give us
Okay,
instances.
so for each person who has some connection with a crystal skull, they're going to have a favorite one. Okay, now
Mhm.
obviously Portal de Luz is a very special one for me, and we've been together since 1999. That's when I received him from an ex-wife, and um, I've taken him pretty much everywhere I go. But the crystal skull I want to talk about is the one which is the most well known, which is the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. Now, let me share for those who've never heard of it briefly about it so you understand what I'm talking about. This is a human sized two-piece skull, the lower jaw is separate. The Mitchell Hedges family did an expedition to British Honduras, which is now Belize. 19, I think in 1923 they started, but in 1924, Anna Mitchell Hedges, the adopted daughter of F.A. Mitchell Hedges, who led the expedition, claims that she was at one of the Mayan ruins and she started to climb up a pyramid there because she wanted to see the vista of the whole area. And as she went up the pyramid, she noticed through a crack that something was reflecting sunlight. So she told her father. Father said, it's a piece of glass. She said, no, there's something to this. So they got the local Mayan natives to lift the heavy stone. And then she was a skinny girl, so they could lower her inside. And she went to what was reflecting the light, and she brought up the top part of the skull. Okay, not the lower jaw, but the top part of the skull. The one I showed you is a single piece, but we actually have Rosalita, which is a rose quartz skull done by these carvers we work with in China. skulls. They made it for us and they gifted it to us, a
Oh,
human-sized
wow.
rose quartz skull. I was blown away. It was
Wow.
one of the most remarkable gifts that Katrina and I have ever received. So we've been working with a skull like the Mitchell Hedges skull that has the lower
Hmm.
jaw, and you got to be very careful how you take care of it. But anyway, they brought up the top part of the skull, and all the Mayan people started becoming very happy, dancing, singing, because this was a sacred object that came out. And then the lower jaw came out in that area, I guess, like 6 weeks later. And so Mitchell Hedges did not have the heart to keep the skull from them. He gave it to them. But when they were leaving in 1927, the head shaman presented it to him as a gift. And that's why their family has that skull.
Oh,
So, of
wow.
all the crystal skulls that I've met, except for the blue skull, which I think I already mentioned that one, which doesn't exist in our physical level. So I can't say I've met it. I just know it's right here all the time for me. Um, it is the most powerful one that I've ever experienced. So I'm going to go to an experience I had around the Indiana Jones film,
Yes.
because when that came out, all of a sudden Crystal Skull people became really popular. Okay.
Hmm.
So I probably had more interviews around that period of time, 2008, when it came out, than I ever had before. And, those were documentaries that were on television.
Hmm.
And thank God, I only have one tough interview. Uh, some people, I don't know where they were from. They didn't believe anything to do with crystal skulls, but I think I did okay. I held my own. The key is when somebody challenges, don't become upset. Not everybody's
Right.
going to agree with everything.
Right, right.
Right.
Just say,
Absolutely.
I understand where you're coming from. And that's the best answer I can give you. So anyway, around this time, I had been living in Holland, but then all of a sudden I came to the United States and I couldn't go back to Holland or Europe. And then the movie came out, and I was in Chicago, and the Mitchell Hedges called The Guardian, which is Bill Holman, because when Anna Mitchell Hedges died, he was one of her best friends, so he inherited Skull. She passed away. She lived to be 100, and she was 19 and 27. So in 2009, I guess she passed away. And I had opportunity to meet her, and I had great respect for her, and that she was sharing a object of this importance with so many people, because there are crystal skull guardians, they do not want to share this. And I think this is a great crime, because I think these skulls, especially these older ones, because this one, some people think, came from Atlantis. Like, there was a spiritual medium, Carol Davis, that worked with that skull. The Skull Speaks is the book where what she was channeling from it, and it was talking about very advanced beings involved in the creation of it. So this is the one I'm focusing on because I had the most powerful experience with it, and it was around the time of the Indiana Jones film. So what happened to me is the Sci-Fi Channel did a 2-hour documentary. They invited me to be interviewed, and because I was in the same area close to Bill Holman, I was interviewed in his house. Okay. They did not air my interview, but I did at least get credit as a consultant. And there was some specific research we did with that skull around that time. So I asked Bill, could I come back and just have a session? So he said, okay, fine. So I came back. So I want to tell you about my experience, because this is an example of what can happen to people with a activated crystal skull. Or the other thing that explains to me why there's this energy and presence around the skull is I believe there are living consciousness that are able to work
¿Qué
through them.
pasó?
So
I know.
okay, so this is what happened to me. So he had, I think, a table from France, from, I can't remember the name. This really, Marie Antoinette. See, I have to ask Spirit to give me the name because I can't remember. Marie Antoinette. I think it was a table or a mirror. Anna Mitchell Hedges had some kind of furniture from royalty in France, but it was a short table. He put the Mitchell Hedges skull on there with a lazy Susan so you could turn it around. And he said, you can't touch it, but you can turn the skull however you want it to face. I had three of my personal skulls with me. Portal de Luz, who I showed you was one of them, and there were two other smaller ones. So I had Portal de Luz and the Mitchell Hedges skull facing each other on its side to me. I was on the ground getting into a meditative pose, and the other two little skulls were behind to create a triangle around the skull. Then I had my MP3 player. This is very important because for me, as a personal experience, the most powerful experiences I have with the crystal skulls when I meditate is when I'm listening to music that I resonate with. Plus, I'm also a musician of sorts. So I have written songs on guitar and the piano. The
Hmm.
piano, I think, comes from a past life. Okay. The guitar, I have no idea. I do things on there and I don't know how I know how to do that. So I assume it's past life. But music is very important to me. So there's certain music that really resonates with me. And so I made sure that I had those songs on my MP3 player and I'm flipping through them fast and I'm meditating and the skulls are in this position. So there's basically two halves to this experience. The first part is the energy in the room is unbelievable, so peaceful and calm. You have to understand if you have friends or family that are Aries, they cannot sit around doing nothing for more than 5 minutes at a time. I'm
Hmm.
the same way. I got to have something I'm doing. I got to be writing a book. I got to be doing, these interviews. I
I'm
got to be
with an
talking.
Aries, and he is not that way.
Well, maybe is he a March Aries? Is he a March Aries?
No, he's April
Okay.
16th, just like Jack Childress.
And I'm April 17th. Wow. Well, that's not
I
common.
think I think a lot of it has to do with his rising and his moon as well.
Yeah, and
So,
there's other things too. But
yes.
for most Aries, when I say this, they go, "Yes, we understand. Yes, this is the way it is for me." But I was able to sit there very calm and peaceful, and I was totally content, and I didn't really notice how much time was going by. That was the first part of it. Now, the next part is one of my experiences where I cannot prove this. Okay, I can only tell you this is what happened to me. I can't even say that I fully understand what this was about, but one of my gifts, and I use this when I do my sessions with people. Like I gave a short reading to, I forgot your first name over here on my my left, underneath Richard.
Angel?
Oh,
Angel.
Angel, yeah.
How can
Hmm.
I forget that Angel? So I did a short reading for
He's not
Angel.
of this earth, remember?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's private stuff, but you can tell people about it later. But anyway, this is my gift. I feel energy, or I can feel the essence of a person. Okay, and I feel it on me. That's how I experience it. So I started picking up very strongly a presence in the room that was like at this direction from me. Now it looks like it's left, but it's right. Okay, because the camera shows you the reverse. So on the toward my right, in the air in the room, I picked up like there was some kind of very intelligent beings, a group of beings. Okay, that's the only way I know how to describe it. I've never experienced such a group before, and it's not like how we experience, an individual. This it's completely different. That's the only. And whoever the group was, whatever dimension that they came from, it felt like the Mitchell had just go opened up a dimensional door. Okay, so they're telling me that it wasn't just the Mitchell Hedges Go, it was the meditation I'm doing with the Mitchell Hedges Go, was the
Uh-huh.
combination. Okay,
Yeah.
because when you do a meditation with the crystal skull, you can start to open up dimensional doors. Like you might want to ask me later about my experience in the crop circle with Portal de Luz, but this is not the time to ask me. Okay, so anyway, these beings, this intelligence, it knew everything about me. Okay, I still to this day I have no idea why did they come, why did they show up, but I do know that there was a change that happened to me. Although my wife Katrina probably will say no because when you get me frustrated or a little bit angry, I'm going to get loud, and she can't deal with that. And I'm not saying that I never do that because that would be like I wouldn't be a human being. But for the most part, I pretty much stay in the neutral because somehow by being in the presence of the Mitchell Hedges Go with those beings showing up, it brought me more into the neutral, into being a more calm Aries, where I don't judge other people. I let everybody be who they are. Or, if I see something to share, I ask for permission. Like I asked for permission from Angel before I opened up my big mouth. Okay, because I never know what's going to come out. And so it was like something was going on there, and I'm still not totally sure what it's about. But I can go back as I'm telling you this. I'm going back into the experience. This is, I guess, what I do as a writer. When I'm going to write about an experience, I relive it inside of myself, and then I write. What am I feeling and seeing, and so on. So that was probably the most powerful experience I had that forever changed my life. Except for this blue skull I've talked about, that also changed my life. But how can you talk about a skull that I've not seen in the physical? Okay, I feel it's there. Am I crazy? Am I insane? Or am I really experiencing it? Well, it tells me one day it will show up in the physical. So there's a 400-page book about a crystal skull I've never seen in the physical, but I have experiences, and it talks to me. And there's a way I can let people experience it, but it's not possible doing it this way. If you were here, I'd just say the energy of the skull's in my right hand, and see what you feel.
Mhm.
So
Well,
I don't
Jack
know if that,
wants. I'm sorry.
one quick question. So I don't know if that helped you in any way with your question, but that was my most powerful experience. And people have experiences like this with the skulls, where their vibrational frequency is shifted, their gifts come out, the inner wisdom and knowledge come out. Not all the skulls, okay? Because some of the skulls, they don't all, you can't immediately assume they all have this great positive energy. And if you get a crystal skull made by a modern carver, right away it's going to do miracles. No, it takes time to work with it. And also, I think part of the reason these things happen is because of the living consciousness that works through it. Beings from other dimensions can work through, especially quartz crystal. It's a doorway for them
Hmm.
to come here.
Well,
Okay.
Jack was wondering, what are your thoughts on magic spells and such?
Okay, so what my feeling is, I am not a pagan, I'm more spiritual. And I think that you have to be careful with those kind of things, because a lot of times my understanding is, and this is what I'm hearing to say, when you're doing spells and calling magic, you're asking for some of these invisible beings to
Hmm.
help you, and they may not have the highest intention. They want that energy, and they want you to keep working with them for the energy. So the voice says, what is the most powerful is you are a divine child of God, and you already have all these gifts inside of you. You do not need to have the outside intervention to help you. You just need to trust yourself. So that's the way I would answer that. But that's not to say, hey, every experience is an experience. It's neither good nor bad. It will teach you something. Like, some people work with what is it called? Where God, my memory is really bad. The Ouija wheel, the Ouija board. Okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
is that a good thing? Well, it's the same kind of principle. You're inviting in these spirits, and you have no idea who are you inviting in. Okay, so you have to be careful with it. But for some people, they can do white magic, and they understand that they have to be careful, and they have to honor what they do and make sure that they're not interfering in the life lessons of someone else. That seems to be the key. Okay, that's why I
Now,
don't just blurt out information to every person I meet, because if I don't have permission, I may say something I think is going to be good for them, and they may become offended. So, so that's the way I look at it.
now, Joshua, I got a kind of a question for you. Me and my father, we consider ourselves as mediums. We can tell. We got this special talent that we can tell what spirits are. My father gave me this book to read called The Spirits Book. I don't know if you ever read it by Annan Karnak. I don't know if you ever read it. It's
Oh,
Spirits Book.
the Spirits book. No, I haven't read it, but I've heard of it because it's big in Brazil. I think
Yeah,
they love him and they follow what he said. So obviously, there was very good information that he was able to write in these books.
yeah, but so and I got a girlfriend in Michigan, and she's into spiritism as well. She's big on spirits, so you know, I've experienced plenty of spiritual, paranormal events. When I lived in New York, I lived in this old house built in the 1900s, and I used to see this man in a top hat. I swore he might have been the original owner, but I kept seeing different events. So
That's a whole
actually,
nother rabbit hole to go
yeah,
down because there's tons of
exactly.
people that have seen the guy in the top hat.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm Catholic, and just to put it out there, I'm Catholic, but I do believe in spiritism. I do believe in spirits. So, I ask you, Joshua, are you a believer in spirits yourself?
Everything is spirit.
Okay.
That's the only way I can answer it. Everything is spirit. It
Hmm.
is an expression of creator. Okay. What
Hmm.
my belief is, everything is one. So everything is,
Uh-huh.
we are
Right.
all molecules in the body of God. So everything is
Hmm.
spirit. So, like, for example, when my
Hmm.
mother passed away,
Right.
okay. So when she's alive, you can feel that there's a living presence within her. But when she passed away and I went to the hospital and I saw her body, I said, Dad, she's totally gone. She's not there anymore.
Mhm.
It's just a hulk of
Hmm.
physical substance. But just because she's not in her body doesn't mean I don't have contact with her. Okay.
Right.
Like
Hmm.
after she passed away, and I knew she was there at the funeral and I was speaking, um, there were certain things I wanted to say, but I couldn't do it because I had to honor my family, who was very sad, that did not understand that we are mortal beings. Okay, that
Mhm.
we are basically spirit. But I was ready to tell a joke and I couldn't do
Hmm.
it. I had to hold myself back. And I know that my mother checks in from time to time. Katrina picks up on my mother, and
Hmm.
she's very happy I'm with Katrina because Katrina takes very good care of me. I think she was worried about me wandering around, without being
Aimlessly.
aimlessly. And as
Hmm.
an Aries, I'm going to admit it to the viewing audience. And Katrina, if she was here, she'd tell you, she keeps telling
Right.
me, you just don't focus on your physical body and take good care of yourself. You're too much excited about all these studies and everything, and you have to have balance. And that's what Earth is about, is balance. I have no Earth in my
Right.
astrological chart, so that's probably why. But she
What you're
helps me.
lacking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's actually another book Anne Kardec wrote called The Book of Mediums. I haven't got to read it, but I'm pretty excited. I'm still looking for a copy to read. It's a really interesting book. I think my father read it one day, The Book of Mediums. I
Mm.
consider myself to be a medium because I can tell whether it's a spiritual. I think Jen, you might be something like that, if I'm correct.
I don't consider myself a medium. I consider myself an empath because I can tell, the different, but that's kind of goes hand in hand with Scorpios, where
Right.
we're very
Yeah.
occult driven, we're
Yeah.
very
We're
empathetic.
Yeah. I'm a Gemini, so there you go.
There's
Me and my
Yeah.
different,
father are Geminis.
right? There's different kind of mediums, Angel.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
mediums I've worked with where the person steps aside and they allow another spirit to come through and talk. And I've
Mhm.
spoken to
Mhm.
Pleiadians, and there was another galactic being. I said that they had three sexes that was talking to me. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. But those people who do that, they're very gifted and they're making a big sacrifice to be able to do
Mhm.
that. And then
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
wouldn't call myself a medium, but I hear things and I feel things. And I think what it is we all have these gifts, or we have certain gifts that
Yes.
come easier to us. Okay.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
I didn't do anything to work on feeling energy or to know
Right.
things. It's
Hmm.
just the natural part of who I am. And what my guides kept saying is, just let go, just trust, and it'll take you on great adventures. So eventually I got it. And that's why I have all the books and everything, is because I followed, like even today, there was inspiration that came about a new project for me to do. And right away I talked to my video person. So that's what I think is the key for all of us, is to trust when that inner inspiration comes from inside of us for a new experience or something for us to check out. We need to pay attention and follow it and trust it, because the key is there's only two possibilities. The worst case
Hmm.
scenario is nothing will change and you'll stay the same person, or the best case scenario is an exciting new adventure. So if you're
Mhm.
Right.
Aries, do you want the exciting new adventure or do you want to be bored? No, I want the adventure.
I want the adventure. Right. Hmm.
Right. Exactly. So I wish everyone could have that part that's like, within Aries, for the adventure. Okay.
Right.
Because
Correct. Correct.
you will learn so much about life and yourself. And this is where I see us going in the future, is our world is going to be completely different than it is now, and we will all have the ability to follow everything or anything that comes up. We will not be limited. Oh, your religion says you can't do this. Oh, your father or mother says you can't do this. Nobody is going to tell you you can't do it. Everybody's going to be, oh, that's great. Go ahead. Tell us what happens to you. We want to hear about your experiences.
Mhm.
Let me ask you something there. So, what's going to lead us to that? I mean, you're talking about like in the future, it's going to be very different than now, and like a major spiritual awakening or something. I mean, what's going to lead us to that?
Yeah, and see, I have a hard time believing any of that because people are not smart.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where we are right now. Okay. We're a divided camp, obviously. Okay. We have people who think it's going to keep getting worse, and we have optimists like myself who think it's going to get better. And then we have an in between group that's not sure what's going to happen. We also know, as people following a spiritual path, that collectively we are co creating this earth. So, like, for example, I've heard where they've had people do meditation and they were able to measure the frequency of energy coming from that place where the meditation was and looking at what happened in that area, activity wise. And they saw crime went down,
Huh?
or, more people were happier, or whatever it was. So, this is what spirit tells me. And
Mhm.
it's taking me to a document that I saw on Telegram too. Okay. So, spirit is saying, right now, this moment, more than 50% of the people on this planet, probably because of COVID and the vaccines and all the bad stuff going on, something shifted inside of them to say, hey, you cannot be sitting around like sheep and just say, yes, I'm going to do this and follow what these people say. There's something not right going on, and you have to make a change. More than 50% of the people on the planet right now are positive. More than 50%. Now,
Mhm.
listen to this document that I found on Telegram. It, I'm going to call the dark group the elite. Okay, they have a lot of names, but I want to choose one that's a little more neutral. Some of them are not so nice names. Okay, and it's because of the things that they're doing, which most people have no idea. So if you want to be part of the elite program, there was a document that I saw that you had to sign. And there were two keys that this document talked about. Number one, it said, our plan to gain control of the planet is we're going to poison the people. So we'll use COVID as an example. Most people who are, I would say, awake or open to possibilities believe that the virus that was created, and by the way, a virus cannot make you sick. You create the virus inside of yourself because you have a problem to expel it. But
Mhm.
they say there's a virus that made you sick. So we'll just go with this explanation. So the COVID virus is a poison to the system. And many people believe there was a laboratory in Wuhan, but it could also be in the Ukraine. The laboratory could have been also. I'm not sure about which place. And they paid people to develop this so that they could make people sick. Now, according to this document, after they pollute your water, pollute your food, come up with a virus, then they're going to come up with the solution, a vaccine. This vaccine is totally safe. Well, there was an experience I have where I was at a meeting when I call it my coma experience. It was when I lived in Las Vegas back in 1990. A van struck me and I was in a coma for 3 days. This was a pre-planned event. That's what I know. I was at a meeting with galactic beings. Again, this is an experience I can't prove, but I see it all the time. And I saw what's happening now because they were discussing how can we help humanity? And they needed to have people like us there. So I wasn't there in my physical body. My physical body was in the hospital strapped to a bed where there were wandering souls coming in and out of it. That's why it was strapped to a bed. But I was elsewhere. I was
Yeah.
at this meeting in another dimension, and I
Hey,
saw,
Joshua, I'm
yes,
sorry to cut you off. I got to get going,
okay,
but this was very interesting. I'm definitely going to be emailing you and talking to you further, okay?
okay, sounds good. Thank you, Angel.
All
See
right.
you.
Bye,
Okay,
Angel.
Bye.
so
Bye.
So coming back to my experience, so I'm at this meeting, I'm representing humanity, not just me, there's probably other people too. They wipe my memory. So I only have like, like with a movie where you have a single frame, I only have single frames that I can remember from this. But this is what I was told before I came back to the earth. You are not allowed to remember what you saw. However, as these events we showed you, which is your future, begin to start happening in your present, you're going to know what's true and what's not true. Okay. So I'm
He's frozen.
Okay.
They're telling him he can't say anything. They're like, nope, pause. This is so interesting.
Hopefully he'll quit buffering here in just a second. He's got my full attention. So
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Hopefully, hopefully his stuff will fix it, or he'll jump back in the room or what have you. But this is, and we've already been 45 minutes in. It's just, time's flying. It's amazing. Yeah, hopefully he'll jump back in.
okay.
But everybody, I'm extremely ecstatic. Sorry, Jack, that we didn't get. That's what I said. The spirits are angry.
Yeah.
They're like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. This has been, it has been an amazing. There he is.
Here we
Okay,
are.
okay.
I was
Okay,
just
so it was
filling with words.
right. So it was a warning what I was about to say, not to totally say it. So I have to think of how to say it differently.
That's what I said. I was like, they were like, nope, pause.
Right. Um, so so they did a good job. They totally cut my train of thought. Tell me, I know I was talking about this experience, but there was something else.
Apparently, they do not want him to talk at all about it. So
I'm not going to talk about what's in the
at
dark.
all.
Just the
Yeah,
movie.
don't.
Just the movie.
I don't think they want you to discuss that anymore. So let's maybe
Okay.
just stay on the train of the place that starts with the T. I can never remember it.
Tartaria.
Thank
Tartaria.
you. If you would like to describe Tartaria for me,
Okay.
because obviously I have a problem with remembering the word, but I'd like to know more about Tartaria and
Okay.
and where it's from, where it's at, what your research has been.
Okay. So last year on Telegram, I see this video called The Lost History of Flat Earth. I go, that's a really weird title. I got to check that out. What is that all about? And it does talk a little bit about flat Earth, but it was mostly focusing on Tartaria. So this person, Iwaranar, who's obviously keeping his identity anonymous, starts showing all these amazing buildings from our past. Okay, like the Taj Mahal, or I don't know what cities you live in, but every major city probably has these very advanced buildings that look like it has domes with antennas on top of it. So the Taj Mahal is a great example of that. So, I'm going through his video and he's saying, well, we have all these advanced buildings, which we didn't have the technology to make them like in the 1600s or 1700s or even 1800s. He also was talking about that there's a lot of buildings that exist where on the ground floor is half above the ground and half below the ground. There's like a window there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make any sense. And then they're starting to show pictures from the 1800s where there's a lot of mud around these buildings. And we have people not with advanced machines like we have now, but with shovels digging them out with floors that are covered by, the ground or mud. And so the understanding is that comes from this, and this is like, I forget what it's called. Cognitive dissonance
Mm-hmm.
is the word. It's something we were never taught in school, which for me was the same. when Katrina starts talking to me about Tartaria, even before I saw this video, I can't wrap my head around how could it be possible for an advanced civilization only 200 years ago to exist in our history. We don't talk anything about this. 200 years ago, people are in a horse and buggy, and they don't have electricity. They don't have any of the modern conveniences that we have today. So how is this possible?
So this place is only like 200 years old that you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So what Iwar and I was talking about is that, like in the early 1800s, there was a total flood, like Noah's flood of the earth, and they wiped out the people living there, the Tartarians, and then there are stories in the 1800s about the orphans, all these orphans that start showing up, or even laws within countries where if a mother isn't married, they take the child away from the mother because they want these children. And there's pictures that Iwar and I are showing in the video of huge cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, and I think a large city in Denmark, where there's the buildings are there, but there's no people walking around, which is totally impossible. At every minute of every day in a large city, there's going to be some type of activity going on. You're never going to have one single moment, especially during the day when the light is out, where you see no people whatsoever in those cities. Another key that came up around this, and unfortunately, I was stupid. I should have copied this on Telegram. Is somebody showed a newspaper article from a large newspaper in the United States, 1852, and is talking about all these ruins of cities in the western part of the United States that existed. Now, again, in our history, we don't know about any history of ruins of large cities that existed in our country. As far as we know, all the cities that we have, they were built up over a period of time the way that they are now. Okay. And slowly but surely, starting with wooden structures and then going to where we're going. Another thing that people notice is a lot of these buildings, which have the domes and antenna, they have very tall doors and are very tall inside. And so what's speculated is they think that Tartarian, and if you go back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, there's all these very tall people that are showing up in different families. They have like pictures of them, that the Tartarians themselves may have been very tall, a very peaceful people, and a very spiritual people. There was a map that I also saw, which again, all of this can be, psyops and faked and whatever. But there's a map that I saw that came from the Encyclopedia Britannica, 1771, and it has on there Grand Tartaria, where Russia and China exist today. Also on Telegram, and we never hear any of these speeches in the major media that Putin makes from Russia, because Russia is doing a very important work right now in the Ukraine, which most people have no clue about. And one of the guests that we had on our show for the center, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that we're creating, Gene Decode, talked about the Ukraine right away in the beginning when I just said, Gene, what's very important to know about? And he went right into the Ukraine. There was a translation of Putin saying Tartaria in one of his speeches, like he recognized and he knew this history. Okay. So there's these clues that we have, or like the Arc of Triumph in Paris. It's a very sophisticated arc, very advanced done. But if you look around the Arc of Triumph, all the other buildings, it looks like it's part of a computer circuit board. So what Iwar Anar was talking about, that a lot of these buildings, especially that had what looked like antennas, is the Tartarians understood, had the technology to go into the ether of the earth, which is a different vibrational frequency, and they were able to bring forward the electromagnetic frequencies and have free energy everywhere. And so the Arc of Triumph looks like a magnet in a way. It's an electromagnet that was used in their system. So this is the essence of what Tartaria is about, that there was this flood that hit in the late 1700s, early 1800s, wiped the Tartarians out, left their buildings, And then the people who were in charge afterwards, and we'll talk about the Chicago World's Fair too, because I think this is another sign of this. They got rid of most of the buildings, but they used the buildings as cathedrals and churches and for government buildings. And they came up with stories about how these buildings were made. Now let's look at the Chicago World's Fair. I was born in Chicago. In 1893, they had the Chicago World's Fair, and they had like 200 buildings, and they called it the White City because all the buildings were totally white in color. And most of these buildings, they say, were built from 1890 to 1893. Very sophisticated, advanced looking buildings, very beautiful architecture. They were not following an architecture that you would say is from America. It looked more like Arabian or European type structure buildings. So if you can find, they have many reports where they show pictures of this area where these 200 buildings were. Only 3 of these buildings still exists. The Museum of Science and Industry was one, which I've been in many times, Field Museum, and also the Art Museum, which is downtown. And I'm thinking Soldiers Field, where the Chicago Bears play football. I'm thinking this may be another one of the Art Tartarian buildings. So when the World's Fair ends, they get rid of all the buildings. Okay. And everybody says they're okay with it. But what's the point? You have these beautiful buildings. Why would you destroy them? Doesn't make any sense. Also, it's publicly stated that Grover Cleveland Alexander was the president of the United States at that time. That, what's the name of that inventor that everybody, this is really bad. Not Edison, his nemesis, the one who worked with him for a short time.
Tesla?
Tesla. Okay.
Okay.
So they said Tesla was
Nikola Tesla.
right. Tesla was there, and he set up the electric system. So when Grover Cleveland hit this one button, every building lit up with electricity, and there was a walkway that was run by electricity. And this was in the 1893 World's Fair. I do not believe that electricity was that advanced at that time. So, in other words, there are some people, when you hear these stories, you could say, no, we're told this and I buy it, and it sounds okay. And I don't see how there could be an advanced civilization that was around in the late 1700s and 1800s that had all these advanced technologies and these advanced buildings and everything. Doesn't make any sense. But, when I was watching Iwarnar's video and looking at the buildings, and also we have what are called star forts, which are supposedly forts that were to house soldiers that were in a star formation, but they're a very advanced structure again. And how can you make them unless you're really high above in the sky looking down at what you're making? It's a similar thing to um, in Peru, you have that landing
Those
area for the
drawings.
UFOs and the drawings of people in the ground. How can you
Yeah.
do that? It's the same with the star forts. You would literally have to be high above to create these structures. And I'm thinking this fort that's in St. Augustine, which we visit 'cause we're by Atlanta, and that's in Florida, and that's not too far away. I think that may be one of the star forts in America, but a lot of them are in Europe. So for me, just one last comment, and then I'll go to your question. It was just like there's too many holes in the history we've been taught compared to the advanced buildings that we're seeing and what's under the ground and these pictures that are coming from the 1800s. And there's just something that's not totally correct. So this is why I think it's important for people to, now I'm not saying you should believe me, but what I'm saying is if it sounds interesting, you know, I have a free ebook, remember, and it has links to videos that you can watch and you can decide for yourself. But as I'm listening to Iwar and R's video, and that's one of the videos referenced in the ebook, I'm going, this guy's making sense. It just, there's too many holes in history that don't explain these buildings. Okay, go ahead, Chuck.
I understand, and if I understand correctly, you said the flood. Y- was that like Noah's Ark, like biblical proportions, like
Yes,
all over? Okay,
yes.
because my question is, and I'm not by any means a born again Christian or Catholic or anything like that, but doesn't that negate God's promise that He originally, back in the days of Noah, had sent the rainbow and told the people of, of Earth, hey, humans, my children, I will not ever do this to you again. So that kind of negates
No,
his,
it doesn't.
yeah,
Because
because he said he would never flood the Earth like this again.
so you're saying he was the one who flooded the earth, and I'm saying he was not the one who flooded the earth.
Okay. All
The
right. I see
most
that.
likely who flooded the earth, I would say, are the same people we're having problems with now. They were afraid of the Tartarians. The Tartarians were interfering with their plan, and this was the way that they eliminated them.
Okay, so
Okay, so you're saying it's semantics then. It's basically whose fault was it that the earth was flooded is why it doesn't negate his promise.
That's
are
right.
you saying
Okay.
that the Earth itself, the entire Earth, was flooded 200 years ago?
Now, I don't know if it was the entire earth, but
Okay.
where a lot of these big cities are today, they were they were taken out. There's pictures of them with no people walking around. There's pictures of them with a lot of mud around them. There's pictures where there are floors underneath floors that are at ground level that
Hmm.
don't make any sense. So the experts are saying the only thing we can think of to explain what we're observing is what's
Okay.
called a mud flood, which would be caused by a gigantic flood. Now, I have a friend um, who channels the Pleiadians. Okay, so I'm just going to offer this as a possibility. And I asked, Heltor is the name of the Pleiadian that he channeled. I say, Heltor, um, how was Tartaria taken out? And he said, well, you have to believe in the flat Earth theory. That, and the Bible talks about this. It calls it the firmament, which is what some people think is a dome that is above the Earth, and that in the Genesis it talks about the waters above and the waters below. So Heltor was saying, underneath the dome is the waters above, and they are held in place by an electromagnetic frequency. And what these individuals did, possibly with help from not so nice extraterrestrials, is they aimed an energy beam up at the waters above and they had it just totally flood the surface. So that was the explanation he gave. So the experts who talk about the mud flood, they're not sure how this water came. So I'm just offering this as a possibility that he said. Now, again, as I said in the beginning before I started, we're going to talk about things that some people are going to have a hard time agreeing to. I talked about Tartaria on the
Hmm.
last interview I did Thursday night, and that person could not buy it at all.
Right.
And he said, are scientists and historians, researching this to verify this? Well, scientists and historians most likely are threatened if they ever bring it up. You will never talk about this again, because why is it totally forbidden to talk about in our history books? Why is there nothing about it? Now, on Telegram, I saw, and I don't know where these pictures came from, and I can't verify it, but in two Slavic countries, two countries that used to be part of the USSR, and I should have I should have had it in front of me. I can't remember their names. Um, Yeah, I can't remember. Kazakhstan is one of them, and the other one starts with a T, and I can't remember. It must be close by. The capital of Kazakhstan, somebody showed a picture of it, and it looked like this is a complete Tartarian city that has not been eliminated because it had all these advanced structures and it looked like they had the free energy system in there, and they will never ever show you any pictures of that on the news. And in its other country too, I saw a similar picture of a city. So, in other words, the people who got rid of the Tartarians said, these two cities we're going to keep for ourselves. And we're not going to let anybody know about them. Nobody can come in. It's like Antarctica. If you try to go down to Antarctica, you will be arrested immediately. They want no one to know what's going on there. And of course, if you believe in flat Earth, then you're going to understand Antarctica is not the way that they're telling us it is. So there's these different things.
I'm
So
glad
that,
you brought that up. I'm
yes,
sorry,
did you
yeah.
have a question about Antarctica?
Yeah, yeah, because I was going to ask you about that. I mean, what are your thoughts on Antarctica and what's beneath the ice there? There's so many crazy theories going on out there. What are your thoughts on it?
Um, well, I'm going to go with what Flat Earth has to say about Antarctica. Flat Earth says the Earth is a circular flat disk. Okay, and at the outer edge of it, which is held by a dome, is all of Antarctica. So it's the entire circumference of the Earth would have Antarctica at the end. Um, Now there was this soldier, and I have a free ebook on Antarctica on Flat Earth, which talks about a little bit about Antarctica, and it has a soldier. We hear that there's secret like military bases, and there could be extraterrestrials that had cities underneath. We also hear that the Nazis did not lose the Second World War. Okay, that they had this advanced technology and they just brought it to Antarctica. They created a base. That's why Admiral Byrd was sent to Antarctica with this ships. And again, my memory is bad. I can't remember the name of the what it was called.
Operation High Jump, I think is what it's
Yes,
called.
Operation High Jump.
Yeah.
And they came back very quick, and supposedly there were flying discs that came out of the water, and just they didn't have the technology to deal with it, so they had to leave. So we're hearing a lot of strange things about it, but the story I want to tell is a kind of a military person who serviced the aircraft that fly there, and I don't know his name, but I his entire interview is in the free ebook that I gave because I thought it was very significant. He said what was happening to them in Antarctica is they were digging under the ground and they were seeing what looked like blue ice. Okay. And it did not behave the same way as the normal ice that we know. Because number one, when it warmed up, it would totally evaporate. It would not go into water. It would just like evaporate when it became warmer. So they could never bring that blue ice out of Antarctica because it always had to stay um, in a cold temperature. And then the other thing is it it was it was a very hard substance. Like when they start hammering on and so on, it didn't behave like regular ice. And when they use some kind of advanced digging machine, to dig into this blue ice that was under the ground, it grew back. Now, if you remember in one of the episodes of Stargate SG-1, the Tok'ra have these like special crystals they work with, and it
Hmm.
it looked like it was working like those crystals. So a lot of times in science fiction, these crazy stories that we hear about is really based on true things because in a way they have to show us what's really going on, but they can say, oh no, this is fantasy, it's science fiction, you shouldn't believe it. So the reason I'm bringing up the blue ice is because there's a possibility that this blue ice is what this dome that's supposed to cover the earth is made out of, that would be at the edge of Antarctica. And that's another reason why they don't want you to go there, because they don't want you looking in the sky and to see the dome, which you can easily see there because it's coming up to the edge of Antarctica. So there's a lot of different things that are happening there. Those are some of the things that I've heard about. But I know for sure that if you try to go there without getting official permission, they'll take you out. Now, another thing that I'm reminded of is if you look at the logo of the UN, it looks like flat Earth. It doesn't look like the globe of the Earth. It's totally flat, and you'll see that there's a circle at the edge, which I think represents Antarctica at the edge. Now, one other story I heard that's interesting is there was a book written in the early 1900s where I guess in the late 1800s, somebody, before they had all these military stopping you from going to Antarctica, a boat went down there and they found an opening in Antarctica, which means there might have been an opening in the dome, and they went past it and they found this other group of people. They look like us, but they were on I don't know if it was an island or a continent, it was called the Iron Republic. And they had completely different rules, different way of life, different way that they looked at things. Okay. And they said, oh, yeah, we know about all the continents that you know about, but we exist outside of them. So that was another interesting story. So somehow this boat, either they were allowed or maybe there's an opening through Antarctica, but outside of what we would know as the known Earth, what we see in our map, is more land masses. And maybe some of what we think are extraterrestrial races are extraterrestrial. They come from this world, but they're coming from places that we don't know about. So as I was doing this study into Tartarian flat Earth, all these different ideas were coming up. I said, well, then I have to make a book to share with people and let them look at the videos and let them check it out themselves. So so that's what I can tell you about Antarctica. I don't know if it makes sense, but there's obviously definitely something going on down there that the forces that be don't want us to know about it. So you know,
Well, we've
go ahead.
had we've had one of our commenters, Jeff Thompson. He's been to Antarctica. So, I mean, what do you say to people who've been to Antarctica and they're like, that's not the way it is down there? What's your rebuttal to them?
That they don't see Antarctica as circling the Earth. They think that it is only a continent at the bottom part. Is
Hmm.
that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I think that probably what happens with some of those people is that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but if they don't, let's say, for example, the people that are in charge of it, they don't want people to know what's really going on there. So they'll fly them in a plane where they can't really see, like how are they coming in or where they're landing. Because, the weather there is very intense. You have snow and ice and the whole thing. And then when they come in, they teach them this is, this base and this is the way it works. And because this is their superiors telling them that this is the way it works, they just accept it. They don't try to go out themselves and really see, is this really true? Like there was some explorer named Cook who wrote in his book, he went to Antarctica and he kept going and going and going. He couldn't find the end of it. Okay, so why would he make a comment like that if it was a set continent? So, so this is the problem that we have with Tartaria. This is the problem we have with flat Earth. If we want to know if flat Earth is true, we need a levitation craft that can go 73 miles up in the sky. And according to the people who are studying this, and according to a um, a group of people who shot a rocket up into the sky, amateurs, they put a camera on it. When it was 73 miles in the sky, it totally stopped. Something held it in the sky. Okay. And the camera shows that. So if we had a levitation ship that everybody could do and we could go up 73 miles into the sky, then we would know the full truth. Is Antarctica the way I'm describing it? Is the Earth flat and is there a dome? But
So
we're not allowed
I'm
we're not
sorry.
allowed to do that.
So you don't believe you don't believe that we've been to the moon?
Oh, the moon is a
That's
whole
a
other
whole nother
story.
rabbit hole, but which I'm sorry, but we've got this week and next week, so
No,
or
I don't.
in two weeks.
No, I saw a video with a scientist or professor. He was interviewed by a major television station. I think it was in the early '60s, um, and he said, "The moon is plasma. We will never land on it." And that's what I believe is the truth.
Okay.
Now, in
Okay.
flat Earth, the moon is not 290,000 miles away. It's like 40 or 50 miles up and only
Oh,
30
so it's
miles
still not
wide.
even according to flat Earth, it's still not even outside of that
It's
73
not outside,
miles.
right? It's not outside the dome. It's inside of the dome, and so
Oh,
is
so it
the
wouldn't
sun.
even matter. Okay.
So is the sun.
Hmm.
Self-illuminating bodies is what they're saying. Now, I saw another video by a Mason. I don't know,
Mm.
is this man a Mason? It was translated into English. So he was speaking a Slavic language, and he was making a drawing, and he was showing the flat Earth. Now, get ready for this. Put some more stuff on your hand, and he was showing a black sun underneath the underside orbiting under, if you have a flat surface.
Mhm.
So you'd have a black sun rotating underneath, then our sun rotating above, and also the moon. But what he was showing was the energy from this black sun somehow was coming up through an opening which would be similar to the hollow earth theory, which says, we have this opening at the North and the South Pole. So it would be similar to this, where it's coming up through some opening that's going through the earth, comes out the North Pole, and the North Pole in the flat earth is not at the very north part, it's at the very center of the earth. Okay. It's coming out, it's hitting the dome, and the light reflected from the dome becomes the sun and the moon. That's what he showed in his drawing. Okay. So the key that we need to understand when we look at these crazy theories, all right, is that it has been prophesied that the truth is eventually going to come out about everything. And the main comment that I keep seeing over and over on Telegram is that everything we've been taught, we have to be ready to throw it away. That everything we've been taught in school may not be true. We know for sure, I think we could say for sure, anything to do with spiritual, there's a big resistance against that. We don't want you to know what are your spiritual gifts or who you really are. Okay, that has come up for me when I've been studying all these subjects, back in the 1970s. It's like, this is a taboo subject. But what's happening now is all this information is starting to come out. We have books, we have people speaking, we have videos. And actually, the Center for the Advancement of Humanity, which is the new project I'm working on, this is our goal, is to look at all these things, as I told Rob McConnell on X Zone, from both the paranormal and the scientific perspective, and share what we're finding, okay, unhindered, okay, with no limitation. We're just like, we have these questions, okay, because there are some people that I respect and they believe, nope, we exist in a universe where the sun is in outer space and the planets are orbiting around it, and the flat earth cannot be true. It's got to be a psyop. Can't be true. But the first thing that came up was a geometric measurement that were given from, we call it the heliocentric model, which is the
I know
sun,
what heliocentric
and
is.
the geocentric model is the flat earth. So the heliocentric model says, and there was a person in England who did an experiment in the 1830s or 40s, and he wrote about it. And this was like the first thing that came up, made sense to me. Okay, so if our world is a globe at the equator, 25,000 miles diameter, right? 25 miles, 1,000 miles around. There is a formula to figure out the curvature of the earth will block what you can see in the horizon. Does that make sense? The curvature of the earth is going to block how far you can see in the horizon. This is the concept. Okay, it has to be this way if we live on a globe. The formula for that curvature, based on the earth having 25,000 miles, approximately 25,000 miles at the equator, is for every mile squared that you move away from your starting point where you're looking at times 8 inches is the amount of curvature. Now, I actually found that formula on Google. Okay, that's what the scientists were saying. Now, what doesn't make sense is if I go to, like, we're not that far from the Atlantic Ocean. Let's say I go to one of the beaches in Florida, and there's a boat that's 6 miles away from me. I should not be able to see that boat with my vision or with a camera that has a zoom, right? Because 8 inches times 6 miles squared will be 288 inches, which is 24 feet. I should not be able to see that boat. But if I put my zoom on my camera, I see it straight on. If the boat is 100 miles away, I will see it straight on if I have enough zoom.
Okay, let me ask you something, because I'm an Air Force guy, and
Okay. Oh, good. Then I have some questions for you.
Okay, all right.
Oh, you weren't expecting that, were you?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned like if we had aircraft that could go up to like 70 miles in the sky, and well, yeah, we do. I mean, when we're talking about 70 miles, we're talking like, well, you're in space at that point. And I think the Kármán line is like somewhere around 50, 60 miles up.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, if it went up there 70 miles, it would stay put because it's in zero gravity. I
Right.
know we have satellites up, and I know we're going up into space, but are you saying we're not? That's
Not according to flat Earth. If we send up a satellite, it needs a helium balloon to hold it up there high in the sky. Okay, so now here's my question for you as a military person, because I interviewed a flat Earth researcher who was a military engineer. He used advanced geometry. Okay. Um, okay, so these are the two things that are believed. The Earth is rotating 1,000 miles an hour, so that's how we get 24 hours per day.
mm,
And um, what's the other thing? No, the Earth is rotating. So if I was to fire a cannonball up in the sky, where is it going to land? If the Earth is rotating, it should be at some distance from me. What is reported by the people in the military, it will come right back down where you are, almost exactly the point that you shot it. So then the people who believe in the heliocentric will say, no, the gravity of the Earth is when it's in the air. So that means the same thing for the airplanes too. It's holding it in place. There's something wrong with that for me. That doesn't make sense. That gravity is so strong that it could do that, hold everything in place. The other thing that he mentioned is if the Earth is rotating, then when you fly a plane or you shoot a weapon, like let's say you're going to shoot a missile, you have to take into consideration, and again, I can't remember the name of this, but they have a name for it. For this force, because the Earth is rotating, you have to compensate for that. And this person said, we don't do any compensation whatsoever. When we fire it, we're firing it straight on, and we just have to figure out the trajectory, but we do not have to compensate because the Earth is rotating. Another thing is some pilots who have been asked by, let's say, flat earthers, when you're up there at 40,000 feet, is the horizon curved or flat? Horizon is flat. When you send up a helium balloon with a camera on it 100,000 feet in the air and it starts looking around, is the horizon curved or flat? Those videos are showing the horizon is flat.
okay. All right.
Okay, so we have to agree to disagree.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Okay, so these are the things that must be researched from both scientific and paranormal perspective. Totally open. But what I'm saying is if there is a dome and if this rocket by the um, amateurs, where their camera is showing that it stopped at 73 miles, if there is a dome up there, then it means there is no outer space also. So what people have to do with these kind of things again is you have to say, okay, I don't buy it. I'm not going to look at any information that you have whatsoever. It cannot be possible. NASA shows us there's an outer space and the whole thing, but then we see people go to a meeting where NASA is and they're looking at their video and they see air bubbles in their video while they're in space, and they ask the NASA official, why are those astronauts underwater and why are you portraying it as being in space? So there's a lot of different challenges that are coming up with this. So all I'm doing is I'm just saying this is another thing out there. I was not a believer till last year. I start looking at it and things just started to make sense for me from the geocentric perspective. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to not be happy with me talking about this, are going to disagree with me and say I'm out of my head. But
Well,
there is
it's fine to disagree.
right. But what I'm saying to Richard is the person I talked to who's into flat Earth, he's a military person like you, and he did his own research and experiment, especially measuring the angle of the sun. And in his research, he came up and said, there's no way that the sun could be, what is it, 93 million miles away. The angles don't match up. It can't be. In other words, what he was observing the sun doing in the sun that's 93 million miles away, it cannot possibly do that. So these are the things that we have to take a look at and research. Any other questions on this, or should we move to another subject?
I think we move to another subject.
Okay.
I mean, because pretty much I don't find a lot of our people are very flat earth friendly.
Right.
However, it's always good to hear, the other sides and hear what people have to say on flat earth. So I do want to hear about that crop circle with your crystal skull though.
Okay.
So is now a good time to bring it up?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. So, um, what are the crop circles? First of all, let's ask that question. Um, Many people aren't sure. It looks like there's an intelligence that's doing it. So let me tell you a story before I go into my story that was told to me by a crop circle researcher. So he said, and this was someone who was acknowledged as a researcher that was respected. He said he heard this story, and he was from England. He lived in England. David Kingston was his name. He's passed away. David went to my first crystal skull presentation I did in England, so that's how I met him. And I went to a crop circle with him with Portal de Luz, which is the experience I'm going to tell you about. Um, yeah, it's with him. Okay, so David said the British Parliament had this meeting where they were talking about crop circles. And they came to the conclusion that what's happening in the crop circles is it's these crazy guys that are going out late at night when everybody's sleeping, and they're creating the crop circles during the night. Okay. Now, from a spiritual perspective, before I tell you my story, when I went to crop circles, I felt I could tell the difference between ones that are real and ones that are fake. It has to do with the energy that was present. Okay, so that's if you trust that I have this gift to pick up energies.
Right.
Okay, if you're just looking at it from a logical perspective, there may be some crop circles that these guys can do that look good, but ones that are miles and miles and huge to do it in a single evening with simple implements to make it happen, no. Okay, because there are some crop circles that their patterns are so sophisticated, there's no way in one single evening, even if you had 100 people, they could go out there and do it, and it would be absolutely perfect. It would be absolutely perfect. Okay, because one of the things with the crop circles is when you look at how the crops are bent, they're not bent by some machine or something. It's a force that's bending them. Okay, but what is this force? Where is it coming from? Okay, so I took Portal de Luz. He actually told me I should do this. He said, "Dad, take me to the crop circles." So I have no idea why does he want to go. Okay. Now again, this is assuming there's a living consciousness that's talking to me. It's not just me talking to myself. The skull is saying he wants to go. So David Kingston takes us to a crop circle that has a yin yang pattern, and it's near one of the sacred stone circles. It's not Stonehenge, it's Avebury. So it's near Avebury. That's where we're going. And he also has a mechanical device he brings, which is sensitive to electromagnetic energy. It has a reading, I guess it goes from -100 to +100. So what he's doing is, as we're walking in the crop circle, he's trying to see where is their energy. And there are places where the patterns are where it's zero. It's like whatever force has created this um, pattern, it's totally negated any energy whatsoever. And also at the center, when we went to the center of the crop circle, the
Mhm.
energy there is zero. Okay.
Hmm.
So what our mission is to see, will Portal de Luz being present make any difference in the energy of the crop circles? Okay, that's the question. For most people, they'll probably say, well, it's just a crystal, it's a stone. We shouldn't be seeing any change whatsoever. Nothing should be happening. But we have this device to measure if there is a change in the electromagnetic frequency in the crop circle. So we decide to focus on the center. So after we measure it and we see it's zero, we put Portal de Luz in there, and the energy does not change. It stays zero. However, when we take him out, we see something strange inside of him. It looks like there's this swirling energy going up and down really fast.
Mhm.
So my understanding is what Portal de Luz is trying to show us is the reason the vibrational frequency is zero at the crop circle is because the energy is going up and down really fast. It's negating itself. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So then the next part of the experiment is to uh, meditate with music. Remember, I told you I meditate with music with the crystal skull, and
Yeah.
Paschal Bell's Canon in D, or in German it's Pachelbel, um, is his favorite song. So I say, okay, now they don't have MP3 players; they have portable CD players. So I have my portable CD player with this music, Paschal Bell's Canon in D, his favorite song, and I'm meditating close to the center of the crop circle.
Mhm.
Now, this is what my experience was, and this is what the result was of the meditation. So, as soon as I start meditating, it feels like there's this cone of energy that surrounds me, almost as if I'm not in the physical reality, I'm somewhere else. But I
Yeah.
have to keep my eyes closed, so I'm not going
Mhm.
to start looking around. I'm totally focused on the meditation. And then in the middle of the music, I have to sing with it. Now, Pasha Bell's Canon in D, they may have versions of it where they come up with words, but generally it's just the music.
Mhm.
So I don't know any words to this song, but I have to sing with it. So I don't know if I'm humming or, I'm just going la 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 da da, da whatever I'm doing. And I think I'm doing a great job singing. Okay, I think I've nailed it. I've nailed it.
We all do.
Right.
Karaoke's fun.
Right. Although when I sing and I don't have a guitar, my voice isn't that great, but the guitar helps me. But I didn't have a guitar there. I'm just listening to the music. And then I come out of the meditation and everybody's looking at me and they said, we don't know what you were singing. So I was apparently not singing Pasha Bell's Canon in D. I was doing something else. So anyway, now we've been through the meditation, working with the skull, and we put him back in the center, and then the reading is at 100.
Oh, wow. What an interesting.
So somehow, doing the meditation with music and the crystal skull, unless it was an unseen force there that wanted to show us something and interceded, I can only say that we went from a measurement of 0
Mhm.
to plus 100.
Wow.
Now, the same thing happened with Portal de Luz when we went to another crop circle with another researcher
Mhm.
who had a different device. And we put a person down where two energy lines intersect in the crop circle because he had a device where he could see, they call it the meridian lines or whatever name you want to give, but it was the energy lines. Dragon's breath is another name given to it. So he found where two energy lines intersect. So we put this woman down. She's meditating with Portal de Luz. And first, before she starts the meditation, there's an energy line that's also coming in. So there's like three energy lines intersecting. Okay, two intersecting and one coming in from behind the
Mhm.
person. And she starts doing the meditation. And that energy line coming in from behind, he sees it breaks into parts. It breaks apart. Says, I've never seen this before ever. That I'm in a crop circle and an energy line breaks apart. Then the woman who did the meditation says, I was contacted by these very tall, friendly, loving galactic beings. And they said, we don't understand you humans. Here we've gone and created this beautiful pattern for you to appreciate. And all you're doing is you're doing tests and experiments on it. So that was their comments to her.
Mhm.
So what I'm proposing is somehow Portal de Luz or crystal skulls that are meditated with or activated can make a difference in the energy of the crop circle. That's where he said. Now, I have one other story with Portal de Luz about energy that comes to me that was interesting. So I'm living in Holland, and I met this guy in Belgium, and his group works with a device called a Lecular antenna. And the only way I can describe what this device does, it's like a dowsing rod, but it has numbers on the side. So the practitioners who use the Lecular antenna, they're able to measure different frequencies as they go out with it, and they know what those frequencies represent. So,
Hmm.
like if a person is ill, they will do different settings until it moves by itself. So let's say if the person has cancer, they have a setting energetic for cancer. They set it to cancer. They go toward the person. If it moves apart, then they know what cancer this person has. Okay, that's how the device works. So what happened is my friend offered to host for his class. His teacher came, and the students of this teacher, and the teacher first says, as he looks at this, go, this is a rock, this is a stone, absolutely nothing is going to happen, we are wasting our time. Okay, he has one of his students does some settings to try to figure out what energy is coming from this go, and he says to his teacher, you're not going to believe this, but this crystal skull is broadcasting all the frequencies of the five senses of a human being.
Oh, wow.
The
How
teacher
can they
told him
measure that?
they know what those frequencies are for sight, hearing. That's how this device works.
Okay.
So it goes back to the teacher, and the teacher says, no, it's impossible. Do it again. They did it two more times, and all three times the same measurements came out. The five human senses were coming from this crystal skull.
Hmm.
So the bottom line of the story related to the skulls is if these skulls are able to affect these very powerful energies that they're exposed to, then what possibly could happen to people who start working with them and meditating with them? It could help them with their spiritual abilities, their evolution, uh, information and knowledge that's encoded inside of us as we activate those gifts that starts to come out. So it's a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool. So in any case, I'm glad I have Portal de Luz because he's constantly giving me new adventures. Okay.
That's so interesting. So, can you tell me a little bit about, since we only have like 20 minutes left, a little bit
Right.
over 20 minutes, tell me about what your center is and what exactly you and your 40 other plus people that are involved with the center. What exactly is it what's your mission? What are you trying to accomplish? Is this just an online thing? Like people can go to a website and check it out? Or is this something that you guys are doing meetups with or what have you?
Okay. So the concept for the center came in 2018. I'm sitting with two friends here in Atlanta, and we feel like, maybe we should build a new spiritual center.
Mhm.
And the reason that we were talking about this is because one of the individuals had worked on projects before where he was able to raise huge sums of money. But of course, it didn't work out. But the next day after that meeting, I channeled, what could the center be about? And I created all these departments and everything. And it was totally spiritually based. Um, and I held on to that information until the beginning of this year. Um, Now, how can I phrase this? There's a lot of people who believe, like you were asking me before about, what could the possible future, positive future be? That the world as we know it is going to change, and we're going to have a completely different financial system. A financial system that things cannot be stolen to, that's very fair, where the currencies of all the countries are equal to a similar value, and also, a lot of money has been stolen from the people for a lot of things that we pay for that will be
Mhm.
coming back. There are different names for this. Some people call it Jasara. QFS is supposed to be an advanced computer that's already in place that has supplemented the current system. I cannot prove that. Um, but the clues about this new system come from Russia and China and India and Brazil and South Africa. Those five countries have created something called BRICS. And what BRICS is about is that their currencies are going to be backed by precious metals like gold, silver, etc. And they're already doing it. The ruble now, and the major media says nothing about this whatsoever, is backed by gold. Russia has already started this process. So people are saying that Russia is beginning the process of disarm. That this
Isn't
is
that
about
what we're already backed by?
no, our currency is backed by absolutely nothing. If you remember, I think it was Nixon, we were backed by silver. He took it away, and somebody before backed it by gold. It was illegal until recently for any of us to hold gold. So our currency is not backed by anything, nothing. It used to be Fort Knox had gold and it was backed by then. Well, that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is the
There's so
problem people
many.
have too. Right. And this is the problem people have too with the cryptocurrencies or the digital currencies. Also, Trump has said, like Bitcoin, it's not backed by anything. So, how can it have value? So, the whole point of the new financial system is everything will be asset backed. That's the way that they're calling it. Precious metals will back everything. What if we have digital currencies and if we have new currencies, like they're calling the dollar is called, I can't forget this. The U.S. Treasury note, USTN. That's what they're calling the new currency for the United States.
US dollar is backed by oil.
By oil, correct. Absolutely correct. Okay, so if this is the case, and there's many people who have like humanitarian or spiritual projects to create a very harmonious and peaceful earth. What is being said, talked about a lot on Telegram, that there is a process in place where these kind of projects will be backed. Now, I believe the spirits that talk to me. And and first of all, what happened in February is I was sick for an entire month. Some people might say, "Oh, you caught COVID." No, I think it was an ascension process. I was going through a shift in my vibrational frequency
Hmm.
because after I finished that, I became vegetarian, which I have stayed since that time. Occasionally vegan, but completely vegetarian, except sometimes I'll eat a little bit of fish. But for the most part, I'm eating plants, vegetables, fruits, that thing. And I feel better energetically when I did that. So in March, Spirit said, "Oh, Joshua, you remember that center that you wrote all those great things about? You need to start it." No, I will not do that. Are you kidding me? If I start something and then nothing happens from it, my credibility will go down the tube and nobody's going to want to help me and support me. Oh, Joshua, trust us. You need to start talking to people about it. So in March, I start talking to friends about my vision. Oh, we're going to research, UFOs and spiritual things and the paranormal, and we're going to find out if Tartaria is real and if it's the heliocentric or geocentric, and we're going to look at everything. Okay, we're going to go into the truth of everything. Okay, that's what we're going to try to do, and we'll use every media that we have available, and we'll have a whole bunch of people working in centers, and I'll even have support instead of me being the jack of all trades and doing my
Master
own
of
book.
none.
Right, doing everything for myself. I'll actually have these young people who are all spiritual, and I'll say, "Here's the new project, and who wants to do what." And
Yep.
and by the way, you can't work for the center unless you know what makes your heart sing. Okay, so I see all
Okay.
these people doing what they love and they're dancing and singing. And when our people come in who want to partake of what information we have, they're not going to want to leave. They're going to go, "This is a great place. Everybody's happy here and
Hmm.
working together. And by the way, could I get a job with you?" So this was the essence of what I have for the center. So I start talking to friends, and I said, "Look, we we don't have the resources yet to create physical centers that you go to, but
Right.
we could
Right.
start doing things online, and we
Hmm.
can meet. We have a Zoom room. We can meet and talk to each other occasionally." And so I said, what I need help with is that you hold the energy in your city or your country where you are, and that you look at the document I have that describes the center, and you visualize it and see how you can hold the energy for that. And we'll just be patient and wait till the new financial system comes and all the money is returned to the people. Then we can start building all this. But the key that Spirit said is You have a choice. You can do nothing and wait and start at zero, or you can start building it already and build up the energy for it so that when your resources come, you can immediately start doing things.
Hmm.
So I have a center here, which is now a sister center in Atlanta. And I asked the owner, who I've spoken at their center. I did a talk on Tartaria there in May. And I said, well, you have a big mailing list and you have a magazine. I know because sometimes you print my articles. So when the center gets going, will you allow us, and we'll pay you for this, to put an ad in your magazine to do to send out to the mailing list and say, hey, we have this new center, the Center for the Advancement of Humanity. Our center is based in this part of Atlanta. We need to hire people. Can we do that? Well, yes, absolutely. And by the way, for you being a sister center, okay, since we're going to get all these resources, we will help you to create all the projects that you never had the resources for. And the only thing that we ask that you do for us is just let people know we exist
Oh,
and
nice.
give
Okay.
them our website. And, if they want to follow any of our projects or whatever. And so this is the principle of the center. Now, I know that there are other people who have a similar idea. They want to create a spiritual center. They're probably going to want to research similar things. So maybe they will become a sister center, or maybe we will just create an alliance with them and we will have a special project and say to all of our sister centers or the people in the alliance, hey, we have this special project. Who wants to play with us? Who wants to join us and have a great experience with this? So this is the concept of the center. And the name came to me when I was writing the description, the Center for the Advancement of Humanity, to share
Right.
the best information to empower everyone so they can be their most truest self. So that's what the
Yes.
center is about. So when the center really gets going, I will give all the information I've collected, and all those projects will become the center. The 6 free ebooks I talked about, which again, anybody listening, if you want to get the ebook, it's at crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com. Just send me an email and I'll put it out to you. And and new projects will probably come up because as people join, they'll say, I had a vision or I had a book I wanted to write. Nobody wanted to publish it. Well, we're going to have a publishing department, present it. And if we love your book, all you have to do is give it to us and we'll do everything else for you. So these are the kind of ideas that I have for the center. And I know that it's definitely going to happen. So how does somebody find out more about it? Well, again, send me the email and I'll send you the link to the Rumble channel. I'm interviewing people to try to show what are we going to talk about? UFOs, crystal skulls, Tartaria. We have videos about this. Flat Earth
Right.
too, if a
Right.
person has the courage to check it out. Okay. Um, you know, and then Telegram. We have a Telegram channel, so that's where I announce, oh, we have a new video. But I can't believe this. I started this, I think, May, and we already have 1,500 subscribers. Now, I
Oh,
won't say
wow.
I won't
That's a
say that
lot.
it's because of me, but it's because of the people I interviewed. And Spirit told me, hey, you should interview this. So we have 3 people I interview about the new financial system. Gene Decode is very popular. So we just interviewed him August 25th, and he has like 12,000 views the last time I looked.
Wow.
Another lady had, what was it, 14 or 16,000. So that's why we're growing, because the people like the information we're sharing and who we're interviewing. And for your listeners, I haven't really announced this yet. I
Okay.
tell you secretly. Um, Shiro's, who's our video producer, uh, feels like I have this tremendous information. So she's going to interview me and we're going to do a whole series, because even in 4 hours, I can't tell you everything
Oh,
that I
no,
can
absolutely
cover.
not. Right.
Right. You can't do it, but that's where I'm going to be able to do it. So it's kind of like how the elders are perceived by the indigenous people.
Hmm.
You honor your elder because they teach you things from their life experience. So at 67, I guess I'm going into the elder experience, and I'm going to, humbly and honestly, like I've tried to do with you guys here, share all these experiences and information and things like that. So the first part of the series, which I hope will be starting before the end of this month, will be about some key past life experiences I've had, which have influenced me and helped me, and are amazing stories. So it'll be when I was civil in the Civil War will be one of those experiences. The son of a musician and a musician that some of you know by name, and I forgot the other one. And I may also go into the Blue Skull too with Peru because there's some interesting stuff. So it'll be stories and information, but it'll be on many different subjects. So it'll be like each part will be a specific aspect. So I know the first part is like, past life. Do we have past lives? Are we immortal souls? This kind of thing. So
Okay, so we're coming up close to the end of the show there. So we'll do what we normally do. Go around the room and tell us where we can find you. And we'll start with Jen. Where can we find you? I know you got a book coming out. So
I do. I have a book releasing November 10th, my 45th birthday. I'm super excited about. You can find me on Amazon under my pen name Jen Amato, which I mean it's just not Jennifer, it's just Jen. So two N's. You can find me on Amazon. You can also find me on I have a website. It is jenamatoauthor.net. If you guys want to check out my website, see some of the merch I have, and then also you can find me on Facebook, Jen Amato Author. I'm look me up. I'm everywhere. Message me on here. Message me on Written Undead. I'll hook up. We'll talk. We'll chat. We'll do whatever. We'll conjure some spirits probably too, whatever. So, I appreciate it though. Thank you, Richard.
no problem. And you can find me at on my author website, Richard R. Rose Author. Uh, at my website.com, and you can also find me on my page here on Facebook, Richard R. Rose, author. And I'm on Amazon. You can find my books, Wild Eyed Southern Boys series, Wild Eyed Southern Boys Book 1, and The Rougarou War as Wild Eyed Southern Boys prequel. All available on Amazon, Audible, iTunes, and Goodreads. And be on the lookout for Wild Eyed Southern Boys, the book 2, Dead Cold War, coming out this October. So, Joshua Shapiro, where can we find you?
best places to find me would be either the email, crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com, our website for the Crystal Skulls, but again, it'll take you to me so you can find the other thing, CSE, like Crystal Skull Explorers, CSE.crystalskullexplorers.com. Besides the 6 free ebooks on that website, there are other books that I've written. There's one about the ancient crystal skull of me, which was the first one I saw. It's only an ebook. The Blue Skull, there's a whole book on that, so you can find that on the website too. And also about Mexico, there's another book we have. And a attempt to do a fictional story with my friend in England, where the crystal skulls come up, and pretty much a lot of the subjects we talk about is a part of this story. But basically, this story is a trilogy. Only the first book is done, and it's to show way how world peace could actually happen in our near future. So that's what the story is about, putting together all these different pieces. And then, of course, the Center for the Advancement of Humanity. We have a single web page right now that I can send you. I can send you to the Rumble video channel, the Telegram channel, or, also there is an email for that as well. And I have a document too I can send you if you want to read about, what our goals are and so on. So that's the best way to contact me. Can I leave the people with a message? Do we have time for that? Short one?
Sure. Oh, short message.
Short message. Okay. So this is what I try to suggest anytime I have opportunity to meet. It's a simple meditation. So we talked about that there exists a potential of a very amazing positive world coming in the future. So a way I see that all of us could help to create that is in your mind's eye, try to visualize what would that world look like for you. Okay. And go into a meditation and just try to see in your mind's eye without being interfered, only for 5 or 10 minutes. what that peaceful, harmonious world would be like. And what Spirit told me is if a lot of us started to do that through the geometric multiple, because we're all co-creators, what'll happen is one day in your near future, you'll wake up, you'll start looking around, and I'm willing to bet you that you will see exactly that world that you've been visualizing for however long a period of time. So it's just a simple suggestion, but it came to me one time and I thought it was good. So that's what I'd like to leave you with for today. I'd also like to thank Angel, Jen, and Richard. Glad I remembered his name for allowing me to come on and talk about all of these different subjects. And hopefully, there's some new thoughts, some new perspectives that's been given to all of your listeners. And I'm glad that you're going to have me come back after the first 2 hours. So I'm looking forward to that as
Well,
well.
we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and visit with us. And that is it for us here at Written Undead. And we appreciate everybody checking in and leaving messages. And we love everybody out there. Have a great Saturday, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.